Please take it over.
Hello, welcome to the RADOS CDS session. The agenda is pretty packed, so as there is no, if there is no general item from anyone, if not, let's switch to the Etherpad. Let me share my screen. CDS umbrella RADOS. That should be it. I hope it's visible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, maybe you could increase the zoom in a little bit if you can, but if not, that's okay.
Oh, 1 second.
All have links to.
Yeah, but just for the convenience of everybody, and to also bring my video feed off, bumping the font up, and we should be ready to go. Okay, we have a bunch of sub components, particularly FastEC, BlueStore, Scrap, QoS, Stretch Mode, App Balancer, Ceph MGR, testability, and last but not least, the rest, which basically means Common, Ceph OSD, and Ceph Monitor. Okay, as the sponsoring feature of Tentacle was the FastEC story, maybe let's start from it. At the very high level, we have 4 or perhaps maybe even 5 stories that are proposed for the umbrella scope. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the zero detection, apologize, that the zero detection isn't merged for Tentacle yet. Very likely it will land into umbrella. All together with direct reads, which is clearly a performance optimization allowing to bypass OSD on the read path. Then we have EC profile / pool migration. I think it's a very, very long awaited feature. Currently, there is simply no other way to tune, to switch, to change even the EC profile, like the plugin responsible for crunching the data, without recreating the EC pool and migrating all its data. My understanding is that this is going. There is a plan to change the status quo. That will be pretty important. Even from the last Ceph in Geneva, I can recall people asking, literally coming and asking for this feature. So sounds there is a huge audience of it. The 4th item is OMAP plus classes. My understanding is that we want to, okay, just maybe an example would be better than abstracted description. RGW. It allows, for years, it allows people to use EC pool for data. But it also requires OMAP. Just for storing metadata. Current way of doing the thing is implementing the division at the client level, at the RGW in this example level. It means that the client needs to be aware and that it should go to a different pool for metadata than it goes for storing data. This is going we want to change that in Umbrella if my understanding is correct. I'm passing here the mic to Bill. Bill, please jump in and describe if you may.
Yeah, so I mean, the objective is making it easier to configure stuff. So rather than having to worry with a replica pool and an erasure coded pool, you just create an erasure coded pool and use that. It also ties in with the pool migration because we want people to be able to migrate from replica to erasure coded pools or the other way around. And again, if we can kind of support configurations with just an erasure coded pool, then that also means it makes it easier to kind of take configurations that are just using a replica pool and migrate them to use erasure code instead. So yeah, that's the main thing, and also just kind of a bit of perception that it's a bit strange that erasure code pools don't support all of the features that replica pools do, and you need to kind of get into the details of Ceph before you understand the differences, and it's better if we just don't have those differences.
I'm trying to note as much as I can. Also, if you could say a word about other items in the FastEC, I will be grateful.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you've kind of covered the pool migration. It is intended to be a completely non-disruptive migration, so no outage, not even a tiny outage as you switch over at some point. And yeah, I mean, this seems to be the simplest way for you to be able to change the EC profile. So if you started with a 4+2 and you added some extra servers and you thought, well, now I'd like to go to a 6+2, then you'd use this non-disruptive migration as a way of changing that feature of the erasure coding, and we think it's kind of changing the width of the erasure coding that's going to be the main use case for this. But also changing from replica to EC, and just those general I want to move a pool to some other storage type use cases. So yeah, several different use cases for that. Yeah, the direct reads is all about improving performance. We've kind of been looking a lot at erasure coding and how we can improve the read performance there, and trying to get erasure coding read performance to be the same as replica performance. And this gets us very close. We've also, as a kind of side piece of work on this, discovered that we can actually improve the performance of a replica storage for large read IOs as well. So kind of 1 megabyte plus IOs to a replica pool, actually splitting those up and issuing them to multiple OSDs in parallel really helps reduce the latency and improve the throughput. And so, yeah, I think that enhancement, and there's a kind of similar enhancement on erasure coding, is going to really help RGW workloads.
I have some graphs for this ready or available if you want to go through them, Bill. Or do you think it's not worth it?
I think we got a lot, so maybe we should just kind of press on through the other stuff on the agenda, and if we've got time at the end, maybe we
I would prefer doing so. But if you could put a link to this Etherpad, that would be super cool. And if there is some time available, we will get back to it.
Sure, I'll get something. I'll prepare something.
Oh, sorry, Alex, my fault. Okay, I think we have pretty well covered the FastEC stuff. Next thing on the list is Bluester. Well, please be aware that there is a separated session and as well and Etherpad as well for tracking all those changes. So maybe let's try to go over them roughly. Adam, would you mind to describe what we have on the umbrella plate?
Gladly. Basically, that's true. We already had not even one, but two meetings on Bluestore stuff in CDS format, CDS umbrella format. So basically, there are two categories of type of elements we are getting into umbrella. First, we have some specifically fixes like improvements for RocksDB caching. That's something that gives us huge performance benefit, but it's really only a fix for something that we had for a long time but did not notice. It's just that sharding does not work very well when elements in a cache are very large, and that can happen for RocksDB.
And Adam, did you I apologize, I had a conflict, so I wasn't able to make it, but did you guys talk at all about whether or not sharding in RocksDB even makes sense at all?
That is a separate difficult topic that I intend to test, but I cannot answer you that question
that's
right away.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question in this is like, do we want to add more code, or are we sure that we even need to be sharding anything?
I can tell you that a number of shards did make a difference in the test I made.
Okay.
But overall, that was a very little worth, because that I had only one thread that was initiating all the workload. So there was an intermixing from different threads, but from different Bluestore threads. The effect I expect will be even stronger when I would test on multiple threads at the same time. But that is something that I did not do.
Yeah. So a while back, as one of the PRs, I think I did this, maybe someone else did this. We originally we had the number of cache shards tied to the number of OSD worker threads, and then that got separated. I think I did that, but we left it to the same 16, as the default number of threads in Bluestore and worker threads. But I've been considering, in addition to what you've submitted, just submitting a PR to make the default like 4 instead of 16. But even that, I wonder if we even need 4. But we certainly, I suspect, don't need 16 shards. That seems crazy.
Strangely, with 4, it works much better, because all the coding that is in the PR presented here did not even needed to be triggered. So there was no complete draining of the elements basically. The problem was when there was 1 or 2 elements in the shard that could fit. If I had just 4 shards, that couldn't happen.
Sure.
So in a kind of a bit around way, it solved the problem. But maybe there was a performance degradation. I cannot attest to that.
Yeah, I suspect there probably won't be, but there might be with 1. But for 4, my instinct is maybe not. But the thing that Hector Martin discovered is that the problem that he was having that was so bad on the mailing list, it was due to the index and filter blocks. Those were the elements that
those
were,
are sometimes 7 megabytes, sometimes 1.5 megabytes. One of those can completely drain cache.
He said on his cluster they were 17 megabytes.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah, exactly. And what could be even worse is that if people change the index and filter the number of filter bits, right, it could be much larger.
Guys, I apologize for.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry,
Your discussion.
Mark, let's keep in touch later.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Perhaps let's move this this very interesting discussion at the end of the meeting. Let's go sweep over all the items we have in the pad. Then we will have time to deep dive, hopefully, and we can extend. I'm free after that. So.
Okay, so let me quickly temporarily jump to point 4, fast O-node recovery. That's a fix, again, improvement that is a fix for cases where we have an extremely large OSDs. And recovery time after sudden OSD crash just took too long. That PR significantly cuts down on recovery time, making it basically bearable. So that's the one. Again, with the same agenda, like mostly like fix, not an improvement, is from Igor Fedotov, better alloc map persistency. That's related to how we keep O-nodes allocations stored in BlueFS very inefficiently. We didn't know that until fragmentation hit us very hard. So 0.6 is also backfix, more backfix. And from that, we have real improvements. 0.5 is a long-awaited feature that will improve how we organized both metadata and data of O-nodes, and that will kick in when we do a deep scrub. We will just hijacking the fact that to compare checksums, we need to completely read object, and just reformulating metadata and maybe also relocating or recompressing bulk data of object will be done at the same time. That is the most efficient way. Long way to go with that PR, but we definitely intend to have it for Umbrella.
Adam, I recall a long time ago there was a discussion even to reuse it for the sake of the duplication. Is that still the case? Do you plan to have
I don't know if the
flex?
duplication can be easily inserted into it, but definitely one of the things we need to do with this PR is making it pluginable in the sense that to be able to code different operations during the deep scrub than the ones that we already have. One of the things we very recently discovered is that we could fix some misencoding of spanning blobs in O-nodes. I will not just delve into the details, but a very just cut inefficiency that we can have with that. But that's not in the PR, and it should be somehow inserted.
Adam, I wanted to mention that for the recompression and defragmentation on Scrub PR, I'm planning on revisiting looking at that one for my Cephalicon talk.
Splendid.
So I'll be looking through that one again. One of the things for me that's a big priority here is to allow you to write data uncompressed and then have it compressed after the fact asynchronously on Scrub. I don't think we can do that with the current PR.
I'm even more interested if you can do that with the current PR easily. Okay, then the next in the category of plain improvements is just we are in a path of completely overhauling how we keep metadata in memory and how we and how much memory we do reserve for that metadata. And that's a series of PRs. That's a point 8. We don't know if it ultimately will work. It's promising, especially that cache behavior, we expect it to be much better if the decoded O nodes will not randomly occupy different allocated locations, but be concise in some local PMR allocator. But here the goal is very simple. It has to be faster or smaller to get in. And to verify that we are really getting faster, there is a 0.7, a small tool from Jaya Prakash Madaka, CPU trace. And that is a tool that we already have been using. And it works very simple. You just put something like a scope over your code that you intend to optimize, and it measures what usually we extracted using perf record, but just cooperatively inside your process. So you can put some one-liner to get your measurement of CPU clocks, instruction, cache misses, and so on, make your modification and capture the result again. And just that difference gives you a number. That's a very important in BlueStore optimizations, because usually when we did some change, the overall effect was so thinly spread that we couldn't really be sure that it gives improvement or not. But with this tool, we are able to get 1% improvements reliably and in a repetitive manner. So we know that it can help.
Adam, isn't this more for common actually?
That's located in common directory.
Yeah, cool. You know, I'm going to move this to a fresh create, maybe now or after the meeting, but for sure I can assure you there will be extra section for common items in the Etherpad, and that will, I think, will be one of them. I can give an example. Recently, we had a discussion in the Crimson meeting on how to tackle some capturing performance data, perf counters in a situation when a callable needs to be split, needs to go through reactor basically. If you have if the entire path of execution is really long, it's split across multiple sweeps of reactor in C-star, well, flame graph isn't
Linux,
so.
Radek, that's very good, but in a current state, CPU trace will not help you track when you go through a reactor. It needs to be expanded to do that. The current tool is heavily utilizing the already existing implementation and integration with Linux POSIX thread model.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, Adam. That's what I was wondering too.
You mean something like thread local, right?
A bit like basically in. Okay, Radek, let's move that.
Yeah. Let's postpone. Yes, fully agree.
So the other two topics that they are remaining that are of different type is support for exotic architecture with non-4 kilobyte page sizes, and that's a work that is ongoing. Radek, you wrote that, but I assume it's about PowerPC and the 64 kilobyte page size.
Yes. I think we are covered this during today's Perf Weekly. I think there is a PR draft existing.
Yeah,
okay,
that's. That's the one. Adam, I wanted to ask: is that the one that's related to the move blob ownership to the O node and allocate via PMR allocators? Is that work? I can give you a link. Just 1 second. Yeah, I'll post it into the chat. Is this? I was trying to figure out if this work was related to that.
No, completely not. That one is related to improvement on that overhaul of the O-node handling in BlueStore.
Okay.
That one, the one that we're talking now about, does not even exist in a PR form. It's Guna Kimball Mahf and TC Chandra Hassan are working on that, and they will be adding a BlueFS side cache, so we can completely disable accessing data in a direct and cached mode at the same time. That way we'll be completely covered for the case of large 64 kilobyte page in PowerPC. That will be it.
Okay.
Radek, I'm not sure if you had in mind any other interactions with 64 kilobyte page.
No, I think it's the one that was causing corruption, data corruptions in the field.
Okay, so that will be ready when it will be ready.
Okay, I see. Let me write this.
So it might not even be on Umbrella. I have no control over that task.
Adam, there's not a whole lot of description in that move blob ownership to O node and allocate via PMR allocators PR. It's a lot of code change.
That might be so because that's a draft. It's not. It's really for communication between Jaya and me so far. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just yeah, I assigned it to you because
most
I wasn't sure you were looking.
Most likely, there are at least 3 earlier PRs that are used to compound into that work.
Okay.
And the last topic, I really don't want to take much more time. It's a flavor of Zero's support and FIE map. Radek, please tell me how much we want to talk about this one.
Oh, it's a very long story, so perhaps at very high level.
Okay, very high level. Currently, we would possibly like to be able to distinguish data that is written to an object and it contains zeros from the state that there is an empty mapping, so the object is not mapped over some range. Currently, we do not have such a support. A way to implement that efficiently in BlueStore can be done. It will not be backward compatible, so there needs to be a significant, meaningful encoding change. But what worries me most is, will that feature really be useful for both EC and replicated pools? Because if it only serves one of those cases, I'm not so willing to implement it.
Discussion, I think it might.
Okay. Sorry. So we're moving that discussion to another topic.
Yes, let's do
another time. Great. And I think that's all for BlueStore stuff.
Thank you very much, Adam. Okay, the next subcomponent is scrap. Ronan, would you mind?
Yeah, of course. Hi. Do you hear me?
Loud and clearly.
Good. Okay. Well, the first line is very simple. Crimson is missing a lot of scrap functionality. I actually don't really know what is missing, but I know scheduling is part of it, and probably the most important tasks I have for Umbrella will be to complete that missing functionality. That's easy to explain. The second point is something that I started working on. It's pretty small, and the idea here is to overhaul the backend of Scrub. This is part of the code that I rarely touched until now. I refactored it mainly by splitting it into functions so that I will be able to understand it in the past, but now I'm changing and improving it. The two main ideas, the two main achievements that I want, two main goals are first is to improve the way we select the authoritative or the best version, the one version of the object that we will use to as a template to correct all mismatched versions. Currently, the selection is pretty, the way we select the algorithm is pretty basic. We check some things and come up with a set of more or less same versions, and we choose the one of them, preferably the primary. I have a somewhat better algorithm, presented it to Sam, and we present it in a more orderly fashion future, but it involves not a lot. I don't think it will be slower, actually. I think it will be faster than what we are doing now. It will, and we'll be able to handle more cases. It will handle metadata and data for replicated proofs, for EC. If I understand correctly, what I propose will work for metadata, but this is, I have not invested too much time thinking about this for now. Now, as part of this change, and the second main goal is to clean up and improve the performance of the backend by mainly one trick. Currently, the code is computing various checksums and collects data and decodes data multiple times during the comparisons. For example, if we are decoding the attribute of the object info, I think 3 times for some of the versions of the object. I'm changing the code to save and note down the collected data, for example, and to collect some more hashes. For example, I'm going to hash the X attributes and compare hashes unless I have to do something else. So I'm expecting a cleaner code and somewhat better performance if mostly if problems are encountered. And yeah, this is more or less, I know what I'm going to do, and it's a multi-step process which I started, and I hope probably will finish it for Umbrella. That's it for me.
Sounds very good. Thank you, Ronen. The next item is QoS. So Passing the mic to Sridhar.
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for QoS, there are a few improvements that we have planned. The first item is the it basically talks about improving the benchmark process. That is currently done when the OSD is being added to the cluster. We basically want to improve the benchmarking process and try to run this benchmark process when OSD is still in isolation, basically before adding it to the cluster. As currently what's happening is after the benchmark is executed, we see cases where there are unrealistic numbers coming out of the benchmark measurement. So the idea here is, the main goal here is to improve the reliability and reduce the possibility of unrealistic measurements. So phase one of this change is already merged, as I have already described in the noted in the second point there. So this basically introduces a subcommand for the Ceph OSD process, basically a subcommand called run benchmark that is basically executed just after the MKFS step. And the idea is to eventually let the Ceph volume run this as part of the deployment phase. So basically, the OSD will still be in isolation, and the idea is to run this benchmark when the OSD is still in that state, and that should hopefully give us more reliable numbers rather than trying to execute this when the OSD is being added to the cluster. So that's the idea here. In addition to this, a couple of other improvements. One is to highlight, even with this, if we still get unrealistic benchmarks, there must be a more reliable mechanism to highlight this to the user. Right now, we just add a cluster log warning, which is not sufficient. So the idea is to notify the user either through a help warning. So that's the next phase of changes that are upcoming. Yeah, so the second and third point basically are the second and third phase of the changes that I'm planning to bring in. The second point discusses the handling the recovery and the client sub-op reads and writes. So as you know, client operations and the recovery operations, they can generate sub-op reads and writes. And thus far, all these sub-op reads and writes were handled in the put into the immediate queue, and that kind of caused undesirable effects of slow being experienced by clients. So the PR that I have mentioned there, that kind of addresses the issue. The slow ops issue disappears with the changes as is in the PR. But what during the testing we noticed that there is the median and the completion latency are still high, even across block profiles when we expect it to come down. So that's something that I'm currently investigating, and that I think will also help the issue that we are observing with client QoS as well, which is discussed in the next point. So hopefully, and in addition to this, the plan is to also tune the existing block profiles. The current changes that I've made as part of this PR, things look promising, but we need to fine tune the block profiles as it presents as a good opportunity to improve the throughput and the latency aspect. The last point is the LibreDOS client QoS implementation. The PR, as you probably have noticed, is switched back to the draft phase. So we need to the changes as is end to end. It works, but like I already described, there are some issues, especially with respect to the clients not being able to realize the set reservation and limits due to the latency issues that I already described. And hopefully, with addressing the sub-ops change, things should hopefully help in this case as well. So, and of course, we need to discuss a little more with respect to the scope of the changes for client POS. That's something that I plan to discuss with Sam and others to come up with a plan for Umbrella. So that's mostly for POS.
Thank you very much for covering those topics. Next item is the stretch mode. Junior, would you want to?
Yes. Okay. So the first item is resolving nested through click detection and OSD fencing. This is basically a phase 2 of our efforts to resolve net split in 3AZ. The first phase was to have a net split detection awareness for even in non-stretch clusters. So that has been merged. And we ran into some little bugs in main that when we were doing things like monolithic thrashings, one of the things we found is that when the monitors fail over and then comes back to try to reconnect to the cluster, it takes some time due to there are some, I believe there are certain things in the protocol V2 connectivity logic and reconnection that slows down this reconnection efforts, therefore raise the PR to kind of like speed up that reconnection effort, as well as also added some net split grace period such that you don't always get net split warnings all the time getting spammed. Now, so we're moving on to, so that bug fix, the PR is under review. I started planning about after that first phase, phase 2 will after we detect net split, we will run click detection on location level net split. So thinking which data center, which pair or of data centers we should keep, and we run some heuristics to determine which node which OSDs we should fence. Then we execute the OSDs to be fenced safely, and then also another item is to be able to lift the fencing of this OSD fence. So I've had a discussion with Bill a little bit and Sam on how just some brainstorming session and ideas I have for these action items on phase 2. I'll also be talking about that more in my Cephicon talk. So yeah, and I guess next topic is relax the strict crush weight set before entering stretch mode. That actually came from some of the Rook users, where they think that when they try to deploy OSDs with different capacity, and which leads to different crush weights in two different zones when they're trying to run stretch mode. They could not deploy, they could not enter stretch mode because of that strict restriction. Therefore, I've talked to some of the Rook developers about this, and we agreed that to relax the check and move to health warnings instead. So yeah, those are two things that I plan on tackling for Umbrella. There is another item that I didn't want to include because it's still in the process of discussion, but I'll make it quick. Basically, there are some requests to allow replica 2 or replica 3 in stretch mode. So currently stretch mode is replica 4, and that's for every single pool. So you can't just change that. So the reason for them is to save on cost in replication. Some of them might have, data that they don't need to be replicated across the data center. So saving on network costs and things like that. The design and feasibility, I did some brainstorming session with some Rook developer, and I might have to bring in like Greg to further on the discussion of the feasibility of it, because it will require to change most of the stretch mode core features such that we can support this. So that's still in discussion. I think that's it for my part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Junior. I added the third item to the list, but with explicit marking that it's still uncertain. We need to discuss that before making any claims.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item, UpMap Balancer. Laura, the mic is yours.
All right. So for the UpMap Balancer, the first item that we plan for Umbrella is we have two scripts that are used a lot by the community. It's called PG or UpMap Remapped and PG Remapper. The first one is written by Dan Vanderster, and the second is supported by DigitalOcean. And right now, these two scripts exist outside of the repository, and they're not officially supported by Ceph, even though a lot of people find them very useful. So there's been a lot of demand for having these scripts officially supported in our repository. And there's also overlap between what these scripts accomplish and what the balancer module can accomplish, or it's actually patching certain behavior in the balancer module. So we are planning to do this in phases. The first phase would be to bring the scripts into the Ceph repository and add toothology testing around these scripts, and so that we can officially support them. And then the second phase would be to patch some of the behavior in the balancer module so that users aren't having to run an extra script. And the cases where this is helpful is when a user is adding storage capacity to a cluster or removing it, and then this causes PGs to go into a remapped state. But then if the target max misplaced objects ratio gets exceeded, this causes PGs to be stuck in a remapped backfilling state. And then the balancer doesn't do anything if the PGs are not active plus clean. And then the cluster is stuck in this state. So then users can run these scripts to apply manually PG UpMap items mappings to bring the cluster back to an active plus clean state. So part of the behavior that will be patching, we would patch in the balancer is adjusting the logic where it doesn't do anything if the PGs are not active plus clean, because there are some states where we do need to apply mappings. But yeah, the first stage is what I'm working on right now, and what we plan for sure for Umbrella is simply adding support around the scripts so that users are not having to use an external script and have to just trust that it'll work outside of Ceph support. So more details about that can be found in the tracker linked there. And I'm currently investigating how all the different use cases for these scripts, in addition to what I just spoke about, to make sure that all the use cases are covered in testing.
Laura, is there any advantage to one script or the other? I haven't
That's a good
looked at
question.
script, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's part of what I'm looking into right now. From what I understand, a lot of the use cases are interchangeable, but I'm looking into if one is used or one is more useful over the other in certain situations. And right now I'm focusing on upmap remapped because that script happens to be written in Python, so that can be more easily added to our repository. But then the PG remapper DigitalOcean script is actually written in Go, so that could potentially be a hurdle for including that one. But all of that is part of the research that I'm doing to see what is used for what and what are all the use cases that these are handling, in addition to adding storage capacity.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good question. So the second topic is multi-threading. This one I had started work on. This is to address, just to improve performance in the upmap balancer. We have several places in the code right now that perform actions on PGs in a loop, and this can be optimized by adding multi-threading. So it won't be super user-facing. It shouldn't require any extra, action on the user side, but it should improve performance around the operations that we're performing on PGs. So that's that. And then the third one, Radek, I don't think we talked about this one. Did you add this point from something?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
not. I think I heard this idea during one of the coursing apps, but please correct me if I put it here wrongly.
Okay, so I'm not sure quite where you got it from. OSD weight-based improvements. So we actually did add. So the I don't know if this is regarding the upmap balancer or the read balancer. We did have an improvement for the read balancer that where the first phase only addressed, or it made an assumption that all the OSDs were the same size, which is ideal for small ODF clusters. But then we did add some improvements to handle OSDs or devices of different sizes. But this is only in the offline read balancer. So maybe what this point is getting at is adding that to the balancer module. But maybe we can talk more about what this is getting at. But that's the thing that comes to mind.
Okay, so we already have this in the simple CLI-based manual facilities, but we are missing that in the Python module.
Yeah.
I see.
So yeah, while you're writing that now, I think that's the end.
Laura, please feel free to rework that completely.
Sure. Yeah, unless anybody has any questions, those are the three things. And then I guess we can, I want to bold the first point because this is the one that we're really focusing on adding. So the second two we'll have to see based on timing if it will land in Umbrella, but the first one is for sure what we're focusing on due to demand from the community. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much. The Ceph MGR PRs, actually they were covered during the we transformed the telemetry session into telemetry plus Ceph MGR session and covered them there. It should be recorded, so I'm not as the time is, we will need to stretch. I'm not going to cover this right now. I'm moving to the REST, which means basically command and CFOSD plus MON. Auxiliary connection supporting MON client. Oh, that's an important feature. There is a PR already available. The high level idea is to tackle a shortcoming. Every single Mon client at the moment observes single monitor. So if the single monitor becomes a subject of a Byzantine failure, for instance, if it's half dead, that's what we observe in the field, by the way. It becomes half dead. Pings are working, so the connection isn't being reset automatically. But the monitor instance isn't replying, isn't providing OSD maps, isn't replying to comments, and so on, then the entire part of the cluster connected to this monitor becomes inoperational. Clients at the moment, they assume that monitor is always responsive, it's always correct. That's a problem. We should, I believe, watch for quorum. Clients should observe the quorum of the entire Mon cluster, and adding so-called auxiliary connections is addressing precisely that. The PR is existing, it undergoes review. I approved it. Patrick, I believe it's also fine, but there is some smaller PR that needs to be unrelated to the main idea of this, but touching the same code area that should be met first. So this goes to Umbrella. I would love to get this as soon as possible as early as possible in the release cycle, to let it bake for a long time before claiming it's stable and production ready. Next thing, bufferless deodorization support. Some of those patches have been already merged for the sake of fast EC. They are mostly about the low-level concrete machinery, literally the buffer row type for efficiently holding zeros, for deduplicating those zeros across all instances of buffer list. For the sake of fast EC, we introduce a very short-living API extension, something like append_0 the second, that should go away with the bigger PR, which target not only this just this low-level storing mechanisms, but mostly huge rework of the buffer list API to find and even make it impossible at the compile time to mess the content of a buffer pointer that is passed to a buffer list as const. Currently, this is not guaranteed. So at the moment, somebody can make a buffer list instance, fill it with constant qualified buffer pointers, and then do mess their content. For instance, CSTR is returning non-const char pointer. I have a branch that reworked that. It's tackled. It makes impossible to mess the content. It's simply detectable at compile time. I believe the main audience here is fast EC, but there are other places where we have maintained even a special buffer static full of zeros, just to save some memory. All that places will be unified with this PR, and it also goes nicely with the potential change in BlueStore for storing the flavor of zero. Let's call it that way. What it's necessary is review. The PR seems ready for initial review. Oh, that's to brainstorm, I think. Let me use the same notation I used recently for the stretch mode. From the field, we know there might be some demand for RGW tools, for RGW deployment, where buck-faked index is completely unnecessary. Yet, for the sake of very low, for the sake of very cold traffic, some unusual operations, mostly managerial or even debugging, we still want to have ability to list every single RADOS object in RGW object within an RGW bucket. But without all this burden coming from maintaining complex OMAP entities. If we are able to make the PG listing more performant and cast semantics similar to S3, that could be a nice improvement for both complexity and performance of some RGW deployments. Anyway, it's an idea. There were some initial brainstorming, but it's definitely not enough. We will need to go through it, most likely during the Ceph column. Config profiles. Long existing idea. I think that Sage made the very first implementation. It hasn't been merged yet, but Matan has already started poking with this topic. There is at least a PR that merges cleanups for the sake of the future rework. What might be where it might be useful is QoS. We know there are some basically config profiles, basically at the low level, a configurable that guards that controls other configurables like profiles. Maybe we could save some complexity in QoS code by making this common. Next thing, separated stores for secrets. Part of data at rest for months. Now we tend to store everything in monitors config DB. Also, sometimes even including secrets, while there is a need for moving this responsibility somewhere else to a specialized component. Not highest priority. I put this on the list on the best effort manner. Health warn for multiple monitors on the same node. Low-hanging fruit. Soft perm namespace usage quota. Of course, hard quota in the RADOS system. At least I have no idea how we could implement that without sacrificing our main design choices. But we do offer soft quota, but not on the per namespace basis. I believe there is also some demand on that in the field. Yet medium priority. And the disk failure predictor. I tend to see this request for making OSDs more, I hate this word, intelligent about disks, about the hardware it's deployed on, multiple times, mostly from support engineers. we need to discuss this further. Definitely not now. We already spilled over the time. Yet, Ceph will be the very good place to have such a discussion. Personally, I'm right against. I would prefer. I would love to keep the use case, the set of responsibilities of an OSD as small as possible. Yet, I need to acknowledge there is a demand for this feature from the field. Okay, that the last but not least, testability. In Tentacle, we significantly improved the encoding related facilities for testing facilities, particularly by improvements in how we consume and use the Ceph object corpus, which is basically a database of what we expect from our decoders and encoders. But we were previously, before Tentacle, we were ensuring the compatibility only in one way. I believe it was we are simply testing the older byte streams with newer decoders, not the opposite. Now we do the testing both ways. There are also a lot of new types that we aggregated in object corpus, but there are also some leftovers from Tentacle, for OSDs, for monitors, for common. We took all the PRs, but other components hasn't met them yet, letting the PRs to expire. Perhaps we want to emphasize the need for getting those PRs in during the discussions at the Dev Summit. We haven't also met some optimization of the performance of Ceph encoder testing. There is a PR for it. We need to ensure it's manageable. It got expired, unfortunately. We want to restart the effort. The last thing. And the last thing is adding support for JSON, especially JSON pretty formatting in Ceph encoder. Okay, I believe that's end of the official part of the sweep over the features and bug fixes we plan for Umbrella. Now, as an extension, maybe not official even one, we can get back to the discussion from the beginning of the meeting. If Adam, Mark, if you want to continue, please feel free.
Sure. So, Adam, I'm trying to remember where we left off. We were talking about the sharding in RacksDB and if it was needed, and then we were talking about the size of the index and filter shards. And I remember at one point saying that I was saying that if users change the size of change the filter bits, then all of the things that we're doing can make this less likely to happen, but they could put the things back into a situation where it still happens if they exceed the minimum size of the cache for one filter block.
Well, if they exceed size of the cache, then we cannot do anything. It's just about exceed the size of the shard. I guess you wanted to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Like just that all of the things that we're doing are mitigation strategies, but a really crafty user could still get themselves into a bad situation. But we could at least make it, not happen by default.
Yeah, let me a bit explain why I did create a solution that rebalances the shards instead of just modifying the shard count. I wasn't sure exactly how much performance change will happen if I simply modify count of shards and how widespread problems that might cause. So I just went directly for very specific limited conditions that I could test, and that was the case that I'm just having very few elements in some shard, and I try to just give more space to that shard, and that could be tested.
Sure.
So that's why the solution was like this.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Radek, I'm sorry. Should we? Did the UK guys want to give their talk on the direct
Well,
links?
we definitely had this on our leftover list from the first sweep. And I just opened the doc out of my own curiosity. I bet Alex or Bill we want to get into that, but still we have some time, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, Adam, I was sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
No, I did not have anything more to say.
Okay, I can understand why you did it that way, Adam. I still wonder if we actually need cache shards at all, but what your solution does that's nice is that it makes it so it doesn't matter, right? You can have one shard or you can have 16 shards. Either way, you can use the whole amount of the cache. So even if it adds a little bit of extra code, I think it's still probably a good idea. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree. From reading the code, I did not see much action being done under shard lock, so maybe it's not relevant at all.
Sure. I think maybe we should, even regardless of what we do, we should probably understand if it even is helpful that we have so many shards by default. I suspect that we can drop it down, maybe not to 1. I don't know if we can go down to 1, but we can. I don't think 16 is probably the right number.
Mark, please don't continue. There are other places where we do sharding, and I'm not sure if we're profiting from it.
I know. Well, I think you and we could probably talk about this for an hour, so maybe we should do it in the Blue Storm meeting or something. But yeah, I agree. Adam, I'd like to give our time up for Alex and Lee to talk about their work, if that's okay.
Exactly. Alex, please take lead.
I think Alex dropped, but I can talk to this chart. So we'd been doing direct read work where we were splitting up larger IOs to EC pools, and so for small reads that are kind of less than the chunk size that EC stripes with, you just send it to one OSD, but instead of sending it to the primary and the primary forwarding it, it's just getting sent directly to the OSD that's got the data. And the impact of this is that we improve the performance of EC small reads to be exactly the same or as close as you can measure to replica 3 performance. And so, quite a big improvement in throughput, also a nice reduction in latency as well, caused by not having to kind of forward the request through the primary. So that's the small reads. If we go on to the part 2, for slightly larger reads, we said, well, okay, we still want to do the direct read, but now the data's on more than one OSD, so kind of let's split the client read and have the client issue shorter reads to the OSDs to get the data back directly. This gives a similar kind of performance improvement. We don't quite get to the performance of replica 3. So if you look at the picture, the green line is the replica 3, the yellow line is what we managed to achieve with erasure coded pools. The reason why the performance doesn't scale to replica 3 is because we're kind of splitting it up into multiple IOs. We actually are getting the OSDs to do more work, because they've got to process 2 IOs instead of 1, and we ran out of CPU resource and kind of hit the wall. So we still get a 66% improvement, but it's not quite as good as replica 3. If we go to part 3, so this is kind of looking at what happens when we have even larger reads. So
Mark, I can hear your keyboard.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So the graph here is kind of 1 meg sequential reads, and what we found here is splitting the reads up actually gave us better performance and better throughput than you could get with a replica pool. A kind of very considerable improvement in latency. I mean, you can see that the latency is kind of at around 1 millisecond to begin with, kind of increasing to 1.5 milliseconds, whereas previously it was 3 milliseconds or more. So a very big improvement in latency. And so this measurement led us to say, well, maybe we can do the same thing for replica pools as well. So what happens if we take large IOs to replica pools and split them up and kind of issue smaller IOs to different copies? So if we go to the next chart, this shows what happens there, and indeed, for 512K and 1 meg reads, we do get a nice drop in latency and a nice increase in throughput for replica pools as well.
One thing, Bill, we were talking about this particular graph in the performance meeting, and we were wondering if we need to actually push out to the right a little bit on the 1 megabyte reads to see if the scaling for the existing tests continues to scale, right? Because it's strange that the 1 megabyte random reads are actually slower in those tests than the 512K random reads.
Well, so because they're just going to a kind of single OSD at a time, you're essentially getting limited by the performance of a single drive.
There's 16 RBD images in these tests, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we would get more throughput if we increase the Q depth further. So yeah. I agree that we should go and do some further measurements here, but the point still stands that for a given Q depth, you're getting lower latency and hence higher throughput.
Yeah, it seems like the real win here, right, is that you get lower latency when you're not at a saturation point yet, right?
Yeah.
By splitting the IOs up to smaller IOs, when the cluster is not saturated, you make the latency better because they're small and they don't take as much time.
Yes, and I mean, I suspect on larger systems we'll see that you start making kind of better use of the network as well.
My only nitpick is to understand what happens when you're under like heavy load. If it still matters, or if it kind of all like evens out at that point.
So I mean, we think these kind of larger reads, this is really going to help the kind of more traditional object workloads with the multi-gigabyte objects that you're reading. Obviously that turns into reads of 4 meg at the RADOS level, and so we think improving the latency here will be rather good for those workloads. And the work to do it for replica pools as well as erasure coded pools is not very much extra work, so we thought we'd do that as well. We've got to be careful that we don't split the IOs if they're too small. So in the experiments we've just done with our kind of prototype, the 256K random reads, we got a latency improvement, but the kind of maximum bandwidth we got was slightly less when we were splitting the IOs, and that's because if you generate too many smaller IO requests, we're back into the same situation as we are with the erasure coded pools with the kind of medium-sized IOs, where we run out of CPU because we've broken it up into too many small IOs. So we got some ideas of how to calibrate that, and you can kind of see the rough idea on this chart. But we've obviously got a bit more work to do and a lot of measurement to do to make sure that kind of always gives an improvement, because we certainly don't want to reduce maximum throughput.
It looks like really good work, Bill. Like it's that all of the stuff that you guys are doing is really, really good. It's exciting.
It looks really good. I've got a question about actually the implementation. My understanding is that we will need to extensively share some parts of the EC infrastructure between OSDs, actually 2 flavors of them, and now clients. How do we, is there any restriction, particularly on the architecture of the clients?
So this change does require changes in the client. For this prototyping work, we've just been changing the code in Objector, but we have been looking at the kernel client as well, and are pretty confident we can put exactly the same changes there. We need a small amount of extra information to be able to work out where to direct the IOs to, and we've added that to the pool structure in the OSD map, but it's only an extra, I think it might only be one extra number we've had to add to the pool structure. And then, because it's a client change, obviously we're going to have to be careful with upgrade and compatibility, and use all the appropriate feature flags and so on to work out when we can use this feature.
Understood. Okay, any questions on FastCC, or either on FastCC or the entire session?
One question, Bill, would be, is all of this that you guys are working on, are you hoping to have it into Tentacle as like an experimental feature, or at the client level as well, or is it
No, the direct reads is work we're doing at the moment. That's not going in Tentacle. We plan to get it finished and delivered in Umbrella.
Okay.
Kind of assuming Umbrella's on a kind of early next year release schedule.
Yeah. So for Tentacle, we'll have the partial read and partial write support, and then for Umbrella, we'll have the direct read support.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Okay. If there is no other question, I think we can close this session.
Radek, where can I get the previous recordings? Links? Can you share that?
Yeah, I still had to do some editing. Try to get them out tomorrow. That's my goal.
Okay.
So I have them uploaded to YouTube sometime tomorrow. I'll definitely share that information in the email groups and also on our Slack.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Radek.
Yeah, sure thing. Are there any other questions for me or for any of our speakers today? If not, I will stop the recording and we're done.
We are.